Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining from. Welcome to the Data Platform Geeks webinar. This is the 14th webinar in the series this month. That's a great achievement for us. We are more than halfway through. We have 22 webinars in this month, and we are hitting 14th webinar today. Today's webinar is about data visualization in Power BI tips and tricks from Reza. He is a Microsoft MVP and a BI professional based out of New Zealand. I'm Manohar Puna. I'm the host for today's webinar. Satya is helping us with moderating the webinar. A quick introduction to Data Platform Geeks. It's a community initiative by eDomino Solutions, who also has companies like SQLMaestros Special India, who are specialized in training across India, pan-India, and SQLMaestros does specific SQL trainings like Masterclass and HOLs. Please do try to explore these sites and you'll be able to find very valuable resources on these sites. As you would have already known, Data Platform Summit 2018 has been announced. This is the 4th year of the conference. We do this conference regularly in the month of August in Bangalore. This conference this year is happening from 9th to 11th of August, and we have 2 pre-conference training days that happens on 7th and 8th of August. This is happening in Hotel Park Plaza, Bangalore. So please try and explore this site. It's a 3-day learning event, and we have 2 pre-conference training days before that. We have 7 tracks, and we'll be having more than 50 speakers attending this, speaking at this conference. The speakers will include people, experts from Data Group, the Microsoft product team, people from Redmond who will be joining us. We'll be having experts from all around the world, the MVPs, MCMs, and also industry experts who are working on various interesting projects in terms of latest developments in the data platform space. It's a 100% learning event. There'll be no marketing involved in these sessions. So please try and attend these sessions because these will be very valuable if you are really serious about data platform and open source at this conference. Let me introduce you to the team behind the conference and also the Data Platform Geeks community. Amit Bansal is a founder of SQL Server Geeks, which is now turned to Data Platform Geeks. Myself, Manohar Puna, I'm the vice president of this group right now. Avnish Panchal, Prince Rastogi, Sandeep Pani, Yogesh Vapul, and Subri Agarwal are the core pillars behind this community who help us in building this community, taking these events to you, and also bringing the conference live and helping us with running these conferences and making these events possible. Also, the backbone to our community is the eDomino teams who help us organize these events. You'll be able to meet most of these core team and also the eDomino teams at this conference when you are attending in August. A special thanks and shout out to Microsoft who have been a great support for us since we started. So without them, we'll not be able to run this conference or run these events across India and across the world in terms of the webinars. If you are attending this webinar, you would have already registered on dataplatformgeeks.com. But if you are joining, if you have joined recently, or if you are still not a member of dataplatformgeeks.com, please do join there because there are a lot of free resources. All the webinars are recorded and are provided available on dataplatformgeeks.com. And any other events, in-person events that happen, the session materials are all shared on this site. There are also a lot of blogs, free videos, labs, and magazines that are available on this site. So please do register because this is free and you get a lot of content that you will be able to use to learn and grow professionally by just registering to this free site. Become a member of these largest SQL groups in the Asia Pacific region. If our Facebook group is the biggest SQL group on Facebook and also on LinkedIn group. You can post any questions and you'll get expert advice on your questions. So please do join these groups and post your questions or answer any questions that you can answer. I would like to introduce Reza again. He's a data platform MVP, a BI expert, and a well-known Power BI expert all around the world. So he'll be delivering the webinar today. Over to you, Reza.
Great. Thank you, Manohar. Just checking. Can you hear me?
Yes, Reza, we are able to hear. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Let me share my screen as well. Yep, share screen, desktop, share a screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, Reza, we are able to see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Manohar, for introduction. I believe I have something about 15 minutes to go. Thank you, everyone, for joining this time of the day. I think it should be like early afternoon in your time zone. I'm right now in Melbourne, so my time zone is a little bit later evening. This session is about Power BI visualization tips and tricks. Before the session, let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm Reza, a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, author of some SQL Server and BI books, and one of the books is Power BI Rocket Rockstar, 1,100 pages book, all for free. There's a link at the end of this slide deck, which you can download the free version of your book. And as Manohar mentioned, I'm doing also a pre-con in DPS in August in India as well. Would love to meet any of you who is coming there. Okay, agenda of the session today, visualization in Power BI. We can talk about that for like days, but in this session, we are covering like some tips and tricks that are important for visualizations. First, I start with a conceptual introduction of why visualization is important, why we should put some effort on the visualization. Then we will talk about creating Power BI reports for mobiles. I will give you some tips and tricks to change the interaction of Power BI reports. We will talk about some of features like grouping and some of the very new features released a couple of weeks ago, which is report page tooltip. I'll show you some usage of custom visuals, and we will talk about some scenarios of which chart is good for you to be using in which scenario. We will go through some of the charts, some different types of maps, and finally we wrap it up with a discussion about colors. Hopefully we can cover everything. In case it is more than what we expected, we can later go through another session, or there are links for all of these materials at the end of this slide deck, which you can study later. Okay, let's start. Importance of visualization. Why visualization is an important part of any BI system. Visualization is, let's say, the simple part of BI system. A lot of people think that, okay, visualization is the easy part. Don't worry about that. We will get that working. But the fact is that if you don't have the right visualization, then users will not see the effect of your system. The front end of your system is visualization. Without the right visualization, without telling the right message in your visualization, no matter how much you spend on your ETL design, how much you spend in Power Query, how much you spend on DAX measures and expressions, at the end of the day, your visualization doesn't convey the right message. You have to create a visualization that is perfect for saying those messages. Let me show you some examples. A lot of us like tables and numbers. In fact, when you create a BI system, a lot of people ask you to give them the numbers, show them the numbers. These numbers are facts. These are not insight. Obviously, you calculated them, you did some analytics, you created these numbers, right? But these are facts. These are not giving any insight. Like, for example, if I ask someone that what is the biggest number in this list, it's quite hard to find the biggest number. Even if they find it, then if I ask what is the next big number, it is still hard. Or what is the smallest number? This data is just fact data. It's not information. It's not insight. It's not helping users to get some make some decisions based on it. And that is because we didn't help in our visualization. In our visualization, we can just put some very minor changes. I can make these color coded. And now with this color coding, users can understand this much better. When the user look at this at the very first instance, they look at these highlighted numbers. And these highlighted numbers can be, let's say, the biggest numbers, the smallest numbers, those numbers that needs more attention. So I actually make this much more insightful with just changing a color. That is a still table. If I change it to a chart, it can tell much more stories. It can actually tell that this is the biggest number we got, the number after that, all other numbers after this, and I can see the flow of these numbers. In this chart, everything is still in one color. I can change the color of one of these, and then my visualization can tell stories. This can be our company. These are all other companies in the market. This can be the specific product I'm analyzing. These are all other products in the market. This is the customer that we are checking. These are all other customers in the market. So you can tell the stories. You can compare things with just changing a color, changing a font, changing something in your visual. If you are using bad visualization, usually you get no insight. Here I have a donut chart, which all different parts of it looks the same, right? Even if these are not the same size, you cannot tell because you have to look at the numbers to make sure that these are not exactly the same or these are exactly the same. Fact in visualization, a very important thing in visualization is that whenever you look at a visualization and you need to look at the numbers for the visualization to understand what is the data, then that visualization is not a visualization. It's a form of table. It's not a chart. Your visualization should be self-explanatory without having any numbers attached to it. Numbers should be additional information, not mandatory information. And it is not about chart. A lot of people saying that pie chart or donut chart, these are not good visualizations. We shouldn't be using that. That statement is not always true, because if I use the same chart in different scenario, like this one, it's the same donut chart, but the one in the left-hand side used in a good scenario, that's a good visualization. The one in the right-hand side is not used in a good scenario. It's not charts that are the problem. It's the way that we use it. It's the location, the scenario that we use it. It's the important part of it. Okay? So with that introduction, we get that visualization is really important. Let's talk about now what are the factors, important tips about visualizations, especially on Power BI. We are talking about Power BI. The first thing is that you have to design your Power BI reports for mobile. Right now, we have more mobile users than a few years ago. In 2014, actually, mobile devices actually preceded the number of desktop devices. Everyone has a smartphone these days. And Power BI reports are mobile friendly. So you have to design it for mobile in order to get it working. Now, if I open a Power BI report, let's say this is a Power BI report I have in the desktop. If I open it in mobile, I will see it in a landscape screen of mobile. And consider this in a landscape screen of mobile. It would be really small. For example, if you want to select this slicer by your fingers in mobile screen, it would be really small. This is a report that you can open in mobile, but this is not a report that is actually designed for mobile. You can design your reports for mobile by going to the View tab. Let me enable zooming tool. By going to View tab and Phone Layout. In View tab and Phone Layout, you can choose a phone layout for your report. As you can see, it's blank. And you can add items to this. I can put this item here. I can bring the pie chart in this report. Sorry, the pie chart in this report. I can bring all other visuals. And this will make it much easier to work with in mobile. Now in mobile, it is much bigger to select it. And whenever I open it in desktop, it will be that layout. So I have two separate layouts. And my report is designed for mobile. It's a very simple trick. You just go to phone layout and you just put these items after each other, design the layout. But even that single trick will reduce the amount of need for printing in your environment, because you will need to print reports if you don't have reports on your mobile. When you bring it in your mobile devices, then printing will go away very, very quickly. That's the first point I wanted to mention to you. The next point I want to mention to you is interaction of visuals. Power BI is an interactive visualization tool. Everything is interactive with each other. You click on a slicer, charts is getting highlighted or filtered. Everything is interactive. This interactivity is actually the nature of Power BI. That is why Power BI is so cool, because everything is interactive. Now, this interactivity is not always good. Sometimes you get not a great result with this interactivity. Let me show you an example. This is my Power BI report, and in this Power BI report, everything is interactive by default. When I click on a slicer, I select female, everything filters, and it shows me female. If I select male, everything shows me male. If I select something in a chart, professional category, everything filters like that. So fully interactive, which is really good. That's one of the great features of Power BI, right? But it's not always good. What happens if I click on bachelor? I click on bachelor and I select bachelor category. Now in the pie chart, I can see the highlighted area of the bachelor compared to the total. And these two areas are not those two areas that you can easily compare. Which one is bigger, which one is smaller? Not really easy distinguishable in this scenario. I would say this is still an okay visualization. What happens if I click on partial high school? When I click on partial high school, this highlighted section is so tiny compared to the actual total, which you actually don't understand what's happening here. This is not a good visualization. This is just showing something, but you can't get any insight out of this visualization. It would have been better if when I click on this, then it would filter that pie chart instead of highlighting it, right? So I have to change the interaction between these visuals. The good news is that you can change the interaction. In Power BI, changing interaction is not a complex scenario. I'll show you how you can do that. You can click on the chart that you want to apply interaction of that on others. Then you go to Visual Tools, Format. You click on Edit Interaction. In Format section, Edit Interaction. You click on that. And then when you click on that, you will see some icons on top of other charts. These icons are saying that what's happening on this chart when something in the column chart is selected. When something in the column chart is selected, this chart is going to highlight. This is the icon for highlight. You can choose to be none. That means no interaction at all. It will not affect this at all. Or you can choose to filter. In this case, if I change it to filter, now when I click on partial high school, it shows me the filtered data. This data is now filtered only for partial high school. This is not the entire data set. Or if I click on partial college, this is only for partial college, only for high school. This is much better visualization compared to the one that I had before, right? I just changed one single button. I just changed the interaction from highlight to filtering, but I have much more effective visualization. I didn't change the chart at all. I didn't change visualization. I just changed the interaction. And when you think about this method of changing interaction, you get actually quite a lot of interesting features out of it. One is a scenario like this. This card visual, I can have a copy of this. I can have a copy of this. And I can consider one of these card visual as the total sales, the other one as the selection sales. I basically select the column chart and make one of these none. That means it will not affect this. The other one, filter. Now when I click on a column, one of them is showing me the total. The other one is showing me the selection sales. There are heaps of actually scenarios you can apply this edit interaction and get really interesting results. It's a really powerful feature, although it is really simple to use, right? That's why we are using it here. In this session, I'm giving you some tips that are really simple to use, but it will take your visualization in Power BI in the next level. The next tip I want to share with you is a very new tip that is actually added a couple of weeks ago in new version of Power BI Desktop, which is ability to create report page tooltip. When I hover on these items at the moment, you can see I hover on these items and I will see a tooltip. This is like a normal tooltip in Power BI. It's a text and showing me the values, which is fine. But recently in Power BI, you can create a report page tooltip. This tooltip itself can be a report instead of a text field itself. How you can do that? First, you need to have Power BI Desktop recent version, especially because this is very new. You have to have the March 2018 version. Then you have to create a new page. I would call it Education Tooltip. And this Education Tooltip, I will make this page, the size of page, to be a tooltip size, because you do not want to hover on some chart and see the entire screen in this size to come as a tooltip. You want to make it smaller, right? Tooltip is much smaller size. Now, I will make page information and set the tooltip feature of that on. This is the critical part of it. You define this page as a tooltip page. And that's pretty much it. Now I would add a couple of charts here. I would add one chart by sales amount. And let's say calendar year. I would make it a bar chart, calendar year and sales amount. I'm designing my tooltip page, right? And the other chart I would add is a normal card visual, which I make it a bit smaller. It's quite big. I make it a bit smaller, putting it here and showing the sales amount on that. Like this. Let me make this a bit smaller, and I would create another card visual as well here, showing the order quantity. Okay, so this is my tooltip page. And just the last thing, I will make the background of this page also a different color. Let's say this is my page background. Okay, this is my tooltip page. I can go to any visuals now. Let's say this visual. I select the visual, basically, and when I select the visual, I go to the format. There is a tooltip at the end, tooltip section. This is the new features added. Tooltip section, you expand it. You make it report page tooltip on, and you select that page that we just created, education tooltip, right? When you do that, then the next time you hover on this, you will see this report page tooltip. As you can see, this is my report page tooltip. I hover on this and I will see this tooltip. And it will pass all the parameters. As you can see, when I change from one column to other column, values are changing. All of the selection is passing through. Very awesome feature added. It's actually like a revolutionary feature added in the Power BI Desktop recently. And when you publish it into Power BI service, you will have this functionality working over there as well. As you see, it's a really simple thing to set up, but very useful. This is one of the new features in Power BI. Okay, I talked about a number of things in Power BI visualization. Let me also talk about a few other things. One of them is different visuals, map as an example. In Power BI, you can create maps in different visuals. We have like 4 different types of visuals for map. I'm going to show you one of these. This is a map existing available like a normal map Power BI visual in this page, right? This map is with the normal map Power BI visual. What I want to show you in this example is this map called ArcGIS Power BI map. It's a very powerful type of map. In this type of map, you get a lot of functionality. I'm going to change it to that. And while this is changing, let me explain what you are seeing here. I'm obviously based in New Zealand, and this is New Zealand map that you see here with some data points there. And these data points are actually a number of earthquakes happened in New Zealand in 2015. In New Zealand, we have obviously a lot of earthquakes. These are earthquakes happened in New Zealand in 2015. Only those earthquakes that their magnitude is greater than 5.5, I think. Yeah, right. So New Zealand is quite shaking all the time. If you come there, you will feel that, hopefully. So this is New Zealand map, and I changed it to ArcGIS type of map. Now I go to edit view of that to show you what ArcGIS will provide as features of this map. One of the features is that you can obviously change the base map. I can change it to different type of canvas, dark gray canvas, light gray, open street map, or just normal street map. This is a street map, as you can see. I can go to map theme and select different themes. Heat map, for example. This type of map shows you heat map. When you zoom out, you will see big clusters. When you zoom in, you will see details of that. Sizes and locations, which are like basic options. And depends on what you select here, then when you go to symbol style, you can actually click on these and change the shape of that to diamond, to square, to different sizes, different configurations. You can make these changes if you want. Or if I choose heat map, then I can choose the color ramp for that. So the configuration can be applied for the visual, for the map theme that you selected. You can also add some pins. Like, for example, I can add a pin for some locations like Christchurch Cathedral. That's one of the things to do when you come to New Zealand. You can go to Christchurch Cathedral or Sky Tower. I bring that one too as well. You can see I can add pins within my map and see them, how it is, how they are located through my map. I can show the drive time from one of these pins. Like, for example, I can click on Christchurch Cathedral and put a drive time of 30 minutes from there. That will show me with 30 minutes where I can get in this map. And if I have any data points around it, then it will be good analysis to understand from this point in a 30 minutes drive where I would get, right? I'm going to remove that drive time for this example. I don't need that. One of the best features of this type of map is actually reference layer. This is the most important features of this visual. With reference layer, you basically add another layer of map on top of this, something that you don't have actually the data for it. But because this data is coming from Esri ArcGIS team, and Esri GIS team has like different types of map. I've heard that it's like more than hundreds of thousands of different types of maps. It's available there. You can basically select a map and add it here. As you can see, I have a map of diversity index in USA 2016, average household income. You can even go to ArcGIS and search for a map. Because this is New Zealand data, I can search for New Zealand. And I will see all different types of map here. So I can get the map of New Zealand schools, traffic camera location, interesting one, pest-free islands, let's say highways, hospitals. There are maps of everything in this database. You can find map of everything in this database. That's the good thing about ArcGIS. This data is earthquakes data of New Zealand in 2015. And in 2015, we had a World Cup in New Zealand, Australia. You probably should know that because you guys are all probably cricket fans. In 2015, we had Cricket World Cup in New Zealand and Australia. And if I click search for cricket, I can see Cricket World Cup 2015 venues. I click on add. That basically add these locations in my map. Without having these data, without knowing anything about that, I just add it in my map. And these are locations that that Cricket World Cup venues been located, right? Now, it doesn't give me information that when this Cricket World Cup is happened, but it gives me information about the location itself, which is the great feature of that, right? So I can basically see these locations and see how close they've been into the earthquakes information itself. It's a very powerful type of map that you can use. It has a lot of features. And the last but not in this list feature is that I can even add a timeline to this. If I bring a time field into here, to the time portion of it, then I will see it zoom out. Obviously, that's one of the side effect of this zoom out every time. Then I will get this time bar. I can make it bigger and play it, and it will show me through the time how these earthquakes actually happened. It's a fully featured Power BI map visual, actually. It gives you a lot of things. It will give you reference layers, pins, having ability to see drive time analysis, timely analysis. It's a really powerful type of map. I highly recommend using this. There is a paid version of ArcGIS subscription as well, but I haven't worked with that. I'm not aware how that works. These features that I mentioned to you, these are all free features. Okay, we talked about a number of visuals. Let me explain the next one in the list, which is scatter. We don't have time to go through everything, so we go through a few of these. The scatter chart is a great visual when you have more than one measure to show. When you have two measures, one measure on your x-axis, another measure on your y-axis. And then you can see how they are working, right? I search, let's say, for one of my fields here, sales amount, let's say. I bring that sales amount is in axis, another sales amount in y-axis, and I rename them. One of them I would call internet sales. The other one I would call reseller sales. And I would bring another field as the size of this. Okay. With the scatter chart, you get some interesting features. One interesting feature is that you actually can see the correlation between different items. I'm going to bring product subcategory name. This information is about some products related to bikes. I bring that into the legend, so I can see different types of product subcategories. These are bike subcategories. I have road bikes, touring bikes, and mountain bikes. And you can see their sales. In the x-axis, I have sales through internet channel. In the y-axis, I have sales through reseller channel. I can easily see that this one, which is road bikes, is the best seller in internet sales and in reseller sales. Then we have mountain bikes, and the last one in this list is touring bikes. Touring bikes is not selling that well compared to those two, right? This is the analysis that you do without considering any time part in it. We don't know, is it something that happened all the time, or this is for a particular year, or all the year is like this? Similar to ArcGIS map visual, this visual also have something called play axis, which I can bring a sequence like calendar year. I can drag it into this axis. And when I do that, then I will have actually my, let me make it bigger. I will have my scatter chart only showing 2008's data, the last year's data. And there is a play axis visualized here. If I click on play, it will show me through the time how these values are changing. It is obviously going really fast. We have to slow it down to understand what's happening. I click on 2005, for example. In 2005, I had these sales. I had internet sales, bestseller, which was road bikes. And I had reseller sales, bestseller, which was mountain bikes. In 2006, the sales of both actually increased. Now I can see road bikes is the bestseller in internet sales and in reseller sales, both, right? And mountain bikes is behind in both categories, actually, internet sales and reseller sales. In 2007, now we see that mountain bikes actually is slightly ahead in terms of internet sales from road bikes, but still behind in reseller sales. And now in 2007, we have a new category sales started, touring bikes. 2008 is the year that you can see some different things happening. 2008, we have the sales of those two, especially in resellers sales channel, dropping, and the sales of touring bikes is, in fact, in this year, touring bikes the best seller in reseller sales, something that you would never realize at the very first view of this data. And the best seller in reseller in internet sales is obviously mountain bikes. So you go through the story. This visual is a storytelling visual. It's not just like a normal visual. This will bring you through the story and you can see how things are changing. If you wanted to show this with some other visuals, you have to have used a combination of visuals to end up with that. You cannot just use one single visual and tell the entire thing. If you click on one of these, it will bring you through the entire path. It shows that in mountain bikes in every year, how much sales it got and how the values are changed. And when you play it, then you can compare this between others. You can even select two of these together and then when play it, you can compare these two with each other. It's really powerful storytelling tool. The scatter chart is not a new chart. It has been for years in Power BI, and before that it has been in Power View of Excel or Power View of the SharePoint. It is a very old technology, but very powerful technology. You will be amazed that not so many people are using this chart. It has many things to offer, but a lot of people still are not using this functionality. Very powerful chart. I highly recommend it in storytelling scenarios like this that I mentioned to you. Okay, right. We talked about a number of things. The next one subject I want to talk about is grouping. In Power BI, you can create groups on the fly. We have groups of items. You can create groups on the fly. And these groupings are something that you don't need to have it in your data model. This will be simply added into your data model whenever you want. Okay, how you can create this grouping? Let's say as a business analyst, I look at this chart, and in my own calculation, I always can calculate partial high school and high school together as a business analyst in paper, but I don't have this as a category in Power BI. I just add them up together in my paperwork. In Power BI, you can actually select them together with control, then right-click group. That will create a group of these two and everything else. When you create that grouping, behind the scene, it's a new field created in your model with some DAX statement. You don't see the DAX statement, but there are some DAX statement that this will create, right? With these DAX statement, it will give you that, and then you can even edit these groups. I go to edit groups. I see high school and partial high school here. I can bring bachelor and graduate degree as another group, partial college as another group. You can add as many as groups you want, obviously. So once I've categorized these, now you can see these are colors of every group. But these are used at the moment as a legend. That is why it is showing as colors. I don't want these to be different colors. I want them to sum up together in a column. So I remove the actual axis. I bring this education groups in the axis. Now I have every category in one section, right? A category of partial college, category of high school and partial high school, category of bachelor and graduate degree. And I can bring now the education itself into the legend. Now it creates subcategories under that. So from an idea of creating some grouping and clustering, I ended up with creating some insight out of a data that was not exist before. Just some more information from a data that wasn't exist before. This is called grouping. This grouping also exists for date field. If you have a date field and you want to create some grouping based on that, that is called actually binning. I can open a date field, right click on it and create a new group. When it is a date field, as you can see here, I can create bins and different sizes, like every 2 months, every 5 years, every 3 weeks, every 10 days. I can create bins like that. So I just make it every 6 months for now. I created this group. Now I can use it in a table. I create a table with this grouping and sales amount value in it. I just make this visual a bit bigger so you can see it. Okay, as you can see in this visual, I've created groups of every 6 months. And you didn't write any single line of code. You didn't actually did any particular thing. It just created that grouping automatically for you. Okay, the last 2 parts I want to talk about. One is about custom visual, and the other one is about colors in Power BI. About custom visuals, there are a lot of custom visuals in Power BI that you can use. I'm going to just show you one of those to give you an idea how custom visuals can be used. I'm logging into my Power BI account to show you one of the reports that we have created with some custom visuals in Power BI. I go to my workspace to find this report. I think we should have a report for car accidents. Yep, that's the one. I'll make it full screen. This is a Power BI report. It will come in a second. Yep, this is a Power BI report, as you can see. It's slightly different from other types of Power BI reports. And the main reason for that is that I actually used custom visual. Custom visuals are the type of visuals that are not built in Power BI, but it is built by some third parties. And you can download it. Some of these custom visuals are free. Majority of them are actually free, not all of them. And you can download it and use it. You don't need to write any single line of code. For this page, I used 2 custom visuals. I used this one from called Synaptic Panel, built by SQL BI company. They are based in Italy. And this one, it's a chiclet slicer built by Microsoft team, not the Power BI team. Another team in Microsoft. Combination of these 2 is giving me a really interesting visualization. This is showing me accidents on the car, different parts of car exterior body that I have accidents. When I click on any of these, I will see, like a normal Power BI report, color-coded, everything, where I have more accidents, interactive. I can select on the slicer and see where these accidents are happening. And this slicer, as you can see, this is not also like a normal slicer. This is a slicer that has images in it. or this visual itself, I actually designed these regions within the designer of this visual and color coded that. It's not really complicated. You can create this in just less than 1 hour. It's not really complicated things. It's really simple to create this. My point is that custom visuals are really big help in Power BI solutions. You can create stunning visualizations, very important visualizations. Compare this visual with the bar chart here. They are almost saying the same thing, but this visual is much more effective than this bar chart. For this bar chart, you have to read texts. This visual, you see the image. You cannot just unsee it. You just look at the image and you see what's happening there. Much more effective visualization. Consider using custom visuals in a lot of scenarios. Okay, and the last part of my session is about colors. Colors are an important part of your visual, and I have a different set of slides deck options for colors. There is a color wheel that you can use. It's a really important subject in visualizations. Combination of 12 different colors. Some of these are primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors. And within these color wheels, you get different patterns, actually. You get some colors that are complementary, like every 2 colors that are opposite of each other, or colors that are beside each other, analogous colors, or different types of patterns. You can find a lot of harmonies like that and build things like that. There are some websites that give you some harmonies of these colors. You can leverage those harmonies and get different variations of these colors. And every color also end up with being a different variation when you combine it with white, gray, or black. It's a lot of colors, and you can actually find a lot of things about it. If you ever find it hard to find a color palette, there are some websites like this link that I added here that has a lot of color palettes. I think this website had 14,000 different color palettes you can use. For colors, when you want to assign colors in Power BI, Power BI actually gives you ability to add a theme in it, a custom color set in it. If you are working in a company that you have to use your own color set, then you can actually create a color palette. It's a JSON file you have to create. When you create that JSON file, then you basically import that JSON file. Like, for example, I have one here. I import it, and as soon as I import it, you can see these colors are changed. And my JSON file colors are actually different from normal set of colors in Power BI. If I go to data colors, I can see that these are a different color palette. There are some websites that you can create these colors from. Power BI.tips has a good free tool for creating this color palette. But the color palette basically is a JSON file that you can use and create these structure, very simple JSON file. In that file, you can even have font sizes, different font for different visuals, different color for different visuals, a lot of configurations like that. Okay, I think I pretty much covered everything in this section. Just a quick summary before going to Q&A section. I talked about importance of visualization and creating mobile reports, how to change interactivity. I've showed you an example of custom visuals. We talked about grouping and binning in Power BI. We talked about a number of visualizations, like I showed you a map visual, I showed you a scatter chart example, and I've talked about colors in Power BI. That was pretty much, let's say, quick going through everything, but I can go through some of the questions now if there are. One question is that how do we ensure security of data with mobile future? Everyone who is connecting to Power BI report with mobile need to have a Power BI account. So they cannot log into Power BI without any accounts. And when they log in, they will not be able to access your report if you don't share it with them. You have to share your report with them. So And if you don't share it, they will not access to it. So it is fully secure through the authentication of Office 365 and Power BI, obviously. Any other questions I can help with?
Thanks, Reza. There are some questions coming in the chat window and in the Q&A panel as well. I would request the attendees to actually post the questions in Q&A if possible. But while attendees post the questions, I would like to quickly share a couple of slides before Reza start answering the questions again.
Yep, okay.
Let me just share my screen. All right, I just want to talk quickly about the pre-conference, the full-day trainings that are available at the Data Platform Summit 2018. So I'll quickly go through these. So we have Dimitri Kotkovich, who's a Microsoft Certified Master of SQL Server from USA. He's going to give a full-day training on troubleshooting and optimize SQL Server like a pro. Sunil Agarwal, who has been a regular speaker and a very popular speaker at Data Platform Summit in the past events, he's going to do a full-day training for the first time on how to migrate your on-premise database to Azure SQL DB and Managed Instance. Managed Instance is in preview right now, so you'll get really good insights about what this particular service is about at this full-day training. Reza, who is our webinar deliverer today, webinar speaker today, he is a BI expert from New Zealand, so he'll be giving a full-day training on Power BI from Rookie to Rockstar. So you have seen the session today. That will be a very extended session to this one, and he will be covering a lot more than what you have seen today. Dr. Leila Itati, she'll be doing 2 pre-con seminars on first day and second day. That will be on 7th and 8th of August. One of them is leading edge data science with Microsoft tools. This is more about the data science in using Microsoft tools. Andy Leonard, who's a world-renowned SIS expert, he'll be delivering intelligent data integration with SIS and Azure Data Factory. Madan Gajendran and his team, the Cosmos DB team from Microsoft, they will be delivering Azure Cosmos DB workshop. Again, the second pre-con from Dr. Leila Itati is building intelligence applications using the Microsoft AI platform. She's a data scientist and MVP from New Zealand. She has delivered a webinar yesterday, which the recording of which is available or will be available on DataPlatformGeeks.com. If you're really serious about R, Steph Lucky is going to be there at the Data Platform Summit this year. She is a data science expert and MVP from UK. She'll be doing a full-day training on practical R for everyone. Sanjay Mishra and his team, the Azure CAT team, is going to deliver a full-day training on scalable data architecture in Azure. If you're planning to move to Azure, this will be a really good training session for you. Joey D. Anthony and Denny Cherry, who are a regular speaker at all the 3 events, all the 3 conferences past 3 years, are going to deliver 2 pre-cons this year, one on Linux for the SQL Server DBA and the other one on a HADR. So please do explore these pre-cons as well. Peter Myers, who has been a very popular speaker last year, is going to do a full-day pre-con on zero to analysis services. He is a world-renowned BI analytics expert, and he is from Australia, so he'll be delivering a full-day training on zero to analysis services. All these speakers will be also delivering breakout sessions during the 3-day conference. So please plan to attend. If you're planning to attend just the training days, also plan to attend the regular sessions. If you're planning to attend the regular sessions, please go through the pre-con trainings, which may be really useful for you. This you can always explore these at dps10.com. All of you may be aware of this, but I just want to repeat, it's dps10.com. And if you have any questions or if you want us to help you with getting you a place at the conference by talking to your manager or talking to your company, just drop us a mail at contact@dps10.com. Again, remember the dates. It's in August. From 9th to 11th is the main conference. 7th and 8th are the pre-conference trainings. I will hand over to Reza for answering the questions. There are a lot of questions for you, Reza.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I go through some of these quickly because some explanation is needed. Some of them I just answered through text. So one question is that can we the question about mobile feature security, I already answered that. Another question is about, can navigation be done using maps to other pages by selecting a particular region on it? Yes, of course. You can actually use drill through filters, and from one page you will navigate to another page. It's like master detail page. Your map can be your master page. You navigate from that to another section, which is details page. Question from Muhammad: should we embed Power BI web page to Power BI desktop in Power BI report service? You are not obliged to do that. It's not mandatory, but you can definitely use Power BI embedded to embed the Power BI report into that. If I let's say understood your question correctly. If not, please explain more in the chat window. The other question is that I want to know if Power BI Desktop is available for free download, has all features discussed. Yes, everything that you've seen right now is in Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop is for free for everyone to use it. If you publish it into the website and want to use sharing features of the website or service, then you have to pay for it. But before that, desktop, everything is free. Another question: can we give condition also in grouping? Grouping doesn't give you the conditional option. If you want to have conditions, then probably you have to use Power Query to do some data transformation. Power Query in grouping conditional columns, there can be really big help on that side. Another question: how data refresh happens in Power BI? It's not that much related to this session, but basically data refresh will get the data from the source of Power BI, load it into the model from the source, whatever system it is, into the Power BI model, which is behind the scene an analysis services tabular model in memory engine, and then all the reports will be served through that. The data refresh itself is quite a big topic. We obviously can't talk about that just in a few minutes. Next session, can you share the link of color palette? I will send the slide deck to Manohar. Maybe there is a way to sharing it, so we'll see how it works. Another question about how we can secure URL embed code, which is generated using publish to web. Publish to web method of creating embed code is not secure at all. I don't recommend using that method because that method is not secure. Everyone get access to that page will be able to see your content. There is no way that you can secure it. You may use some JavaScript methods to hide part of it, but still, if someone right-click on your page, they would be able to see the code, copy it, and use it somewhere else. I don't recommend this method as a secure method of sharing. Next question: if we embed Power BI report dashboard to a web page, it will take login credential to Power BI automatic or need pass using JavaScript. When you embed Power BI report, you have two options: with a token or without a token. Power BI embedded is entire different subject. If you use embed with a token, then you can pass your own type of username and password to the login page that you have, not Power BI username and password. People will log into your page and will see the content. If you want to learn more about that, just check out my blog post. I have written blog post series about 7 different blog posts about this subject. It will explain everything with the code. Next question: can we have SSIS output as an input for Power BI application? Absolutely. SSIS will write into any databases as far as I know, and then Power BI can read from that from that source, not directly from SSIS. SSIS does not write into Power BI itself, but SSIS can write into a database, any types of files, and Power BI read it from there. Next question: won't drill through become a complex thing using map as in the user should select it accordingly? Is there any effective method of navigation? It won't be complex. User just need to right click on that piece of map and then drill through. It can be done with the shape map or even with some other types of maps. It won't be that much complex. How we can secure URL embed code which is generated using publish to web. It's another question. Again, I think it's a repeated question. I already answered that. Which visualization I use to embed web page into Power BI? If you want to embed a web page into Power BI, there is a custom visual called HTML, I think, HTML viewer, something like that. You can use that. That's a good one. How about data refresh, which I explained that. Can we have SSIS input? Yep, I explained that as well. Could you please give me a link to your blog post? Yep, it's radacat.com. Quite easy. I just put it in here, radacat.com, and you will see everything in there. Okay, that was very quick go through all questions.
All right. Thanks, Reza. That was a wonderful session, and I can understand you are still on the New Zealand time clock, even though you're Melbourne, so it's already 11:30 for you. All right. So if there are any questions from the attendees, please do post them on the Facebook group, and we'll get Reza to answer them if possible. You can also we'll upload the slide deck once we get from Reza, and we'll upload the webinar recording as well, so you can always get the contact directly and interact with Reza, or you can always post your questions on the Facebook group. Thank you, Reza, for your time. It was a wonderful webinar.
Great.
Attendees for taking your
Thank you for opportunity. Thank you everyone for attending.